you, I may say good evening. Once again, it is 99. Good evening, chat room. How are you? We have a special guest on Lyrical Live Show. I'm gonna turn it over to Lyrical and the special guest, Dr. Umar Johnson.
Good evening, Dr. Umar Johnson. Thank you for being a part of this show today.
Good evening, sister. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. Today, I would like to ask you, what do you think about our current take on Donald Trump administration and how you feel we should handle ourselves and our community?
Good question. First of all, I think that Black people have to reorient our relationship to the American political structure. We make our political decisions based on emotions, and that's not good. Political decisions should not be based on emotions. No decision should be based on emotions for that matter. And with Black people, one of the reasons that we're always exploited, one of the reasons that our vote is always taken for granted is because we always make decisions on emotion. We voted for Barack Obama on emotion. We consider Donald Trump to be the devil incarnate based on emotions. The truth of the matter is Barack Obama's agenda for Black people is no different than Donald Trump's agenda for Black people. In fact, the agenda for Black people for every single president of the United States has been the same: to control, to patrol, and ultimately to exterminate. So we have to get over this falling in love with politicians. It has not benefited us at all. We have to be objective, we have to be systematic, and we have to be comprehensive as it relates to how we're going to deal or not deal with political candidates. They are not preachers. It's okay to have an emotional relationship with your preacher because he is a religious leader. They are not religious leaders. They are political leaders. And until we change our relationship to the political structure, always looking for some sort of emotional appeal, they will always be taken for granted because all the politician has to do is appeal to Black people's emotions. Talk about your hurt, talk about your pain, talk about police genocide, bring some Black people in to dance and sing at the inauguration, come to a couple Black churches, talk to Black women, talk to Black men, visit a couple jails like Obama did, but don't actually change anything systematically to help Black people. So the political structure will never benefit us until we stop dealing with it emotionally. And the second piece I would say is that until we start financing our own Black candidates, it's going to be very difficult for the political structure to work for us as well. Black people only vote. We vote in mass, but we do not finance in mass. See, when we look at the Obama presidency, one of the reasons that the homosexuals got what they wanted and white women got what they wanted and immigrants got what they wanted is because they financed Obama's candidacy. You have to finance campaigns. You just can't vote for candidates. Until Black people are financing campaigns and stop spending all of our money on cars and hair and clothing and jewelry, we're always going to be at the back of the bus because you have to control the politician, and you can only do that by financing the campaign.
Well, you made some great points. What do you think are good alternatives for brothers and sisters who want to open their own business without allowing the outside influence of white America to control them?
Well, here's the thing. Black people can start businesses without necessarily depending on the white economic structure for any help. They just have to start small. But one of the reasons that Black businesses struggle so much in this country is, number one, a lot of Black businesses approach their Black consumers the same way that white businesses approach their Black consumers, and that is through a capitalistic approach. You cannot deal with Black folks in a very anal, objective fashion, especially when you are Black. And a lot of Black people just want to get rich off of other Black people, and they get mad when they're not successful. If all you're trying to do is get rich off of Black people, which means you're only trying to exploit us the same way white folks do, then Black people have no reason to support you. A Black business is not a business that is owned by Black people. A Black business is a business that is owned by Black people and that also takes some portion of its revenue and reinvest it back into the Black community. But if you have a business in the Black community, but you're living in a white neighborhood, your kids go to white schools, you might be married to a white woman, you pray into a white Jesus, you probably surround yourself with white people, that's not a Black business. It's only a Black business if it invests back in Black people. And then there's three things. that I think black businesses need to do better. Number one, they need to work with each other more. There's very little collaboration amongst black businesses. Okay, all of the black barbershops should be organized. All the black beauty shops should be organized. Every business that black people has, we need to organize it. That's why they have the Korean American Business Association, the Jewish American Business Association, the Arab American Business Association. Where is the African American Business Association? And although we do have chambers of commerce, okay, they're largely aligned along capitalistic lines with very little being done to actually reinvest back into the black community. So number one, we need to organize. We can make more money together than we can competing with each other. White corporations have realized this, and this is why some of the largest corporations in American history have actually formed mergers. They have come together to corner the market. They have realized that we can make more money working together than we can working apart. Black businesses need to catch up. Number two, black businesses need to do a better job of marketing their products and services to black consumers. Black businesses do a horrible job marketing their products to black people. They simply say, I'm black, and because I'm black, you need to shop. That is taking customers for granted. And customers who feel like they're taken for granted do not patronize. So you actually have to have a campaign, okay, flyers, radio, TV, the same thing you do to attract white consumers, you have to do to attract black consumers. In fact, you have to do it more because black people still believe that the white man's ice is colder. So if you're a black business expecting black people to support you just because you're black, you're in for a rude awakening. You have to go out of your way and you have to be very clever to attract black consumers. Number three, all black businesses need to improve their customer relations. Black businesses have very poor customer relations. They're not on time. They can be deceitful. They don't meet deadlines. They don't actually guarantee the quality, a lot of them, that they should have guaranteed. And I know very few black businesses that actually have a customer service number. I know very few black businesses that actually have a customer service number. I know very few black businesses that actually send out birthday greetings to their customers. I know very few businesses that send out greeting cards, holiday cards to their customers. White businesses keep in touch with you. They make you feel good about shopping with them. Black businesses do not make you feel good about shopping with them. In fact, in many cases, and I can think of several black businesses where you often are challenged as to whether or not you want to keep on supporting them because of the way you get treated when you go in there. I can think of a lot of black businesses who actually treat their black customers with such disdain, it makes it hard to patronize them. And then the fourth thing, black businesses need to advertise whatever way. They're reinvesting some of their wealth because they can't invest it all. We understand that. But a portion of your proceeds need to go back into the black community, and you need to be advertising why. If you're supporting an independent black school, you need to advertise that. Okay? If you're supporting a football team, a local football team, you need to advertise that. If you're supporting an abuse shelter for women, you need to advertise that. Whatever you're doing to support the black community, you need to advertise. And in advertising, you should not be misleading. Don't over-exaggerate what you're actually doing for that football team, that abuse shelter, that independent school. You know, if you're only giving them a couple dollars a month, then there's no need to advertise because you're not doing much. Okay, but if you're actually strongly supporting a business, then you should let it be known to the community.
Okay. Do you feel as though that African Americans get business loans?
I'm not against business loans. I think we need to be careful because business loans are considered venture capital. So the regulations on the interest rates are they're slim to none. You see, the interest loans on cars are regulated. Interest loans on student loans are regulated. Interest loans on mortgages are regulated. Interest loans on businesses are not as well regulated. So, for example, I'm building a Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Okay, if I go and get a $2 million business loan, by the time I pay off that loan, I could have built 10 Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academies. You know, so for me, I understand sometimes we have to tap into that capital, but we should be very slow to do so. We should be very slow to do so. And if we do have to tap into the capital, we should try to look at a group investment. Bring other people on board with your business so you don't have to shoulder all of the responsibility by yourself. So I'm not against it, but we do need to tread lightly. And when and if at all possible, we should access those loans through black banks.
Okay. What proper path we should take in this modern society to reconstruction and guide our youth for the future?
Well, we have to build our own schools. You know, most people think the most important function of a school is to teach children. It's not. The most important function of a school is to socialize children, to prepare them to participate in their community. Chinese education prepares Chinese kids to improve Chinese living. Arab education prepares Arab kids to improve Arab living. Jewish education prepares Jewish children to improve their community, their people, their culture. And education in the black community prepares black children to go to prison, black boys to go to prison, black girls for poverty. And it prepares us to work for white folks. So education is a failure for black children. And it's largely a failure because black people don't consider it their obligation to educate their own children, which is absolutely pathetic, but it is so true. If we considered it our obligation to educate our own children, then we would be opening up schools instead of spending $600 million on McDonald's as we did last year, or spending $9 billion on weed and perm as we did last year, or spending $2 billion on athletic shoes as we did last year, or spending $4 billion on liquor and alcohol as we did last year. One of the biggest reasons that we are not respected as a group in this country is because everyone knows how poorly black children are treated in America's public schools. Jews know it, Arabs know it, East Indians know it, Chinese know it, Mexicans know it. Everyone knows that black America is sitting by watching their children go to hell and doing nothing about it. We spend in Philadelphia $3 billion on Christmas gifts, New York City about $8 billion on Christmas gifts, Los Angeles around $4 or $5 billion on Christmas gifts. There's not a major city in America where the black Christmas bill is anything less than $1 billion. It only costs $250,000 to start a bank. It only costs $1 million to start, $250,000 to start a credit union, $1 million to start a small bank. Why is black America sitting by watching our kids be special educated, medicated, miseducated, juvenile incarcerated, and prematurely exterminated? It's because we do not care. We could talk about the miseducation machine all day long. We could talk about the fact that they deliberately miseducate our kids. We could talk about the fact that they deliberately special educate our kids. We could talk about the fact that they deliberately psychiatrically medicate and misdiagnose our children. But what are we doing with our own energy, our own intelligence, our own expertise, and our own money to provide our children with the education that they need? We're doing nothing. We are actually supporting the school to prison pipeline by not building schools for our own children. As Marcus Garvey said, if the black man and woman are not careful, we will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and die from the effects of it.
Okay, so do you think education is important for African Americans?
It's very important, but it's only going to be as important as that education is designed to prepare black children to participate in their own reality. It cannot be an education for servitude. Public education in America today is an education for servitude. In fact, it's worse than that. It's no longer an education for servitude. The education in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s, that was an education for servitude because at least you could get a job. This is not an education for servitude because you can't even get a job. We have over 2 million black folks with college degrees who can't find work. I don't even need to name how many black people we have without college degrees who cannot find work. Half the black men in America are unemployed. Most black children in America, like black teenagers, are unemployed. So the education must be an education for entrepreneurship. It must be an education for black community infrastructure. It must be an education for wealth accumulation and economic power. No group in America is looking to share. No group in America practices multiculturalism. No group in America believes in an interracial economic reality. Every group in America is here to build a cultural reality for themselves, an empire. Chinese Americans are building a Chinese American empire. Jewish Americans are building a Jewish American empire. Everyone is about power accumulation and wealth acquisition except black people. All we want to do is participate in everybody else's reality. We're not interested in building our own. And nobody wants us, which means we will always be the beggars of society. We will always be the spendthrifts of society. We will always be the most neglected members of society because we haven't woken up to the reality of this world. And that is the future is only guaranteed for those who work hard to earn it.
Okay, so how can black parents improve literacy rate for black children, and how do you feel about the school choice?
Well, number one, I do not support the school vouchers program. that our new Secretary of Education, Ms. Betsy DeVos, President Trump's selection, who barely got elected, she was appointed, confirmed, I believe, with it was a split tie, and then there was 2 or 3 votes that actually got her over. She almost lost the confirmation, so half of Congress did not approve her. But be that as it may, she is a charter school queen, and she is a school voucher queen. And the reason she was chosen is to complete the public school elimination program in the black community that was started under President George W. Bush in the year 2000, continued under Barack Obama, and he was never questioned about black folks, not one time, and it is going to be intensified under Donald Trump. I'll be in Chicago speaking on Saturday. In Chicago, we have over 100 schools that have closed down in the past 5 years. I was in Detroit 2 weeks ago. In Detroit, you have over 100 schools that have been closed down in the past 5 years. And according to the media, recent stories, Chicago and Detroit will be closing an additional 25 schools. In Philadelphia, over 100 schools have been shut down. What is the purpose of shutting these schools down? They are relocating black people. So if you're relocating black people, you obviously don't need those schools. And on top of that, if you don't plan to give black people jobs, livable wage employment, you don't need schools either, because the purpose of public school is to prepare you to work in the factories, in industry. America no longer has industrial jobs for black folks. They have shipped them to white neighborhoods, and they've even shipped them to second and third world nations. So public school will soon be a thing of the past. The United States Department of Education has only been around since the 1980s. A lot of us don't understand this. The Constitution does not give any child in America a right to an education. Your right to an education is guaranteed by your state. It is not guaranteed by the Constitution. And the reason I do not support vouchers is because vouchers is a very clever way of intensifying the economic stranglehold around schools that serve black children. If you give a black mother of 3 children a $5,000 voucher for each of her 3 children, and she wants them to attend a $10,000 independent school, she still has to come up with the additional $5,000 per child. So you give her $15,000, she still needs another $15,000 to pay the $30,000 tuition. Where is a single black mother going to get an additional $15,000 to pay for the private school of her children? My point being that the school voucher program that Secretary DeVos is going to champion all across this country should be rejected and opposed by all black people. Why? Because it only benefits middle class and upper class blacks. If you are working class or underclass black, if you live in poverty, there is no way in heaven or hell that you're going to be able to subsidize your child's independent education along with that voucher. It only works for middle class and upper class blacks. And because we should only be concerned about what is going to be in the best interest of all black children, we should all, as a community, reject the school voucher program.
Okay, so how do you feel about suspension and expelling for black community?
Well, suspensions and expulsions is a very big problem in our community. Mm-hmm. And the foundation of this issue rests upon the fact that white women do not like black children. They don't like black boys in particular. There was a report that came out, published by the United States Department of Education, a couple of years ago, I believe it was in 2015, that had showed that black boys were being suspended and expelled from public school at a rate that was 4 or 5 times the rate of white boys guilty of the same offenses. And the greatest rise in suspension and expulsion was amongst black boys in preschool and kindergarten. Black boys in preschool and kindergarten are being suspended and expelled at a rate that exceeds white boys in high school. How do you explain that? It's only one way: racism. 97% of America's teachers are women. 93% of that 97% are white racist females. Whenever we talk about the miseducation of black children, we do our community a disservice by not being specific about the issue. They're not learning because white women are not teaching them. White women don't care to teach them. And white women are guaranteed their jobs for the rest of their life after they've been teaching 2 or 3 years under the teacher tenure agreement that exists between the 2 largest teacher unions in America, the National Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers. They have bullied school districts into giving teachers tenure, not for quality of performance, but purely for time on the job. It's not based on quality. Teacher tenure is not based on quality. It's based on quantity. time on the job. And teacher tenure is one of the biggest barriers to actually improving education for black children. Because if you got a 25-year-old white racist teacher who has tenure, who knows she's not going to lose her job for not being able to do it well, she could come to work and treat black kids any kind of way she wants, miseducate black kids any kind of way she wants. She don't care about them anyway. The only reason why she's there is because she couldn't get a job in the suburbs, or she's there because she's getting her student loans paid off by the federal government with the loan forgiveness program. And after 5 years of miseducating black kids, she'll go to the suburbs where she will properly educate her white children.
What does success for black people in the United States look like, and what is the goal for us?
Well, for me, and I'm coming from a Pan-Africanist perspective, a revolutionary Pan-African nationalist perspective, success for me in America would mean that black America has a very strong political, economic relationship with our mother continent, that we have international allies in the forms of independent states in Central South America, the Caribbean, as well as the African continent, where we are engaged in regular political, economic exchange, where they support us and where we support them. We need the type of relationship with African states that Cuba and Fidel Castro had with Russia. That's the type of relationships we need. That way we can demand certain things from the United States government and have those demands backed up by independent states in Africa. That is the vision of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. That's the vision of Dr. Umar Johnson. When we talk about Pan-Africanism, people often make the assumption that we want everybody to go back to Africa. Nothing could be further from the truth. The Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, who was the greatest black leader of the 20th century and the only black man since slavery to organize an organization composed of 10 million or more people. Marcus Garvey never led a Back to Africa movement. What he said was that some of us had to go back to Africa and work to improve the conditions of Africa, because Africa's political economic state and the degree of respect that she gets from other nations around the world is reflected upon all black people around the world. So part of the reason that we would explain the reason why black people are still stuck in Jim Crow, part of the reason we would explain the police genocide against black people that has come back with full force during the Obama administration. One of the ways we can explain the racism, we could explain the underemployment, the mass incarceration of black people in America, is the fact that we don't have any international allies. We don't have independent states to put pressure on the United States government for its treatment of black folks. We can't expect African states to just stand up and speak out for us unless they're going to get something for it. Because after all, they're not doing too good themselves. So they need to know that if we're going to stand up for black America, what is black America going to do for black Africa? We have $1 trillion economy that we can leverage to build relationships with our nation states back home on the mother continent. So we do have a future in America. You have a future in Canada. You have a future in the UK. Black people can coexist in a white reality, but you will not be able to coexist in any white reality on this planet unless you build a relationship with the mother continent that allows them to come and support you. Why aren't Chinese kids killed by police? Why aren't Arab kids killed by police? Why aren't Mexican youth killed by police? They have gangs in America. In fact, they have some of the worst gangs in America. You never hear about them being killed by police. Why? Because they have nations, independent countries around the world who will speak up and stand up, who will show up and show out for them. We're the only non-white group in America who don't have international allies to come to our defense. Is there a future for black folks in America? Yes, but there will be no future without Africa.
That's so true. How do you feel about black people entertaining in marijuana industry as retailers, growers, and manufacturers?
As a psychologist, I am not in support of any form or method of escapism that allows black people to experience a degree of pleasure that is superficial, artificial, and does not come as a result of them actively working and organizing and changing their reality. In other words, the worst thing you can give to an oppressed people is a means of psychological escapism. Because if they are allowed to escape from their problems, they will never solve them. Church is a form of escapism. Crack is a form of escapism. Cigarettes is a form of escapism. Alcohol is a form of escapism. Materialistic consumption, conspicuous consumption, shopping is a form of escapism. Eating can be a form of escapism. Partying is a form of escapism. Marijuana is a form of escapism. So I do not support it in any way, shape, or form, except for its medicinal uses and its spiritual uses. But I'm not a supporter of recreational marijuana because it's going to do nothing but give black people another option to run away from their responsibilities. We don't need black people getting high. We need black people getting busy solving their problems.
Mm-hmm. Should Americans take collective assistance on immigration bans of blacks from other countries or no?
Repeat that question, please.
Should blacks take collective assistance on immigration bans of blacks from other countries?
Black people then lost their mind on this Donald Trump immigration bill situation, this executive order that he signed. Okay, I'm not coming to the defense of any immigrants unless they are African. Why? Because the Department of Immigration has always kept to a bare minimum the percentage of Africans from Africa and the Caribbean and Central and South America who can immigrate to the United States. This issue has always been an issue for us. Nobody spoke up for us. The Arabs didn't speak up for us when America limited the importation of African immigrants. But for the past 50 years, it has been almost impossible for Africans from certain African states, especially those that are least developed, to even get a visa to just visit. I have friends from Africa who have tried to come visit me in America. They can't. They won't even give them a visa. In many African countries, the only way you can visit America is if you win the lottery. They actually have lottery where you have to win a visa to visit America. And then a lot of them, when they come, they're held up at customs and they're put in detainment camps, concentration camps, where they are immediately deported back to Africa. Okay, there's concentration camps all around this country. People don't even know about them, where they keep African immigrants. They just sit them there until they're able to ship them back home. So black African immigrants from around the world have always suffered Jim Crow racism at the hands of the United States Department of Immigration and Naturalization. So all of a sudden, we're supposed to come to the defense of Arabs. We're supposed to come to the defense of Mexicans. We're supposed to come to the defense of Chinese and other persons when they have never come to the defense of us? Absolutely not. Because those Arabs and those Mexicans and those Chinese and those Asians, they're only coming to America to take your place. They're coming to America to move you out. They're coming to America to take your houses and your jobs and your children's scholarships. They're not coming here to share. They're coming here to replace you. The Mexicans are the main population that the United States government is using to eliminate black folks from being necessary in the American economic reality. Look at the Arabs. They're all up in Dearborn, Michigan. They're all out in Detroit. They own the gas stations and the corner shops, and they selling the dope and everything else. They don't come to help blacks. They come to hurt blacks. By him keeping those immigrants out, that might give you a better opportunity to find a job. So what is black people doing running around pushing for immigrants to come into America and practice more racism against you? We have to understand something. When immigrants come to America, they come to America with the foreknowledge of knowing that they are expected. They are expected to support and reinforce white racism against blacks. They are expected to support and reinforce white racism against blacks. You can't name a single population of immigrants that have ever come to America to help blacks. They have always come to America to hurt blacks. When the Irish came, they came here lynching and killing blacks. When the Italians came, they came here lynching and killing blacks. The Jews came and they participated in the enslavement of blacks. They were the largest insurers and constructors of slave ships. Immigrants have never been our friends, so why are we defending their coming to America?
That's so true. Okay, so what about the separation but equal in our community? Do you think that could be successful or no?
Repeat that again, please.
Separation but equal in our community. Do you think that could be
separate
successful?
But equal? Yeah. Black folks are already separate, so we don't have to focus on separation. We're already separate. Very few black folks deal with white folks off the job. Very few black folks deal with white folks off the job, and if they do, it's only because they forced their way into a white suburb, or white folks have them trundling along, because white folks always like to have a symbolic white puppy, a symbolic black puppy along with them. So a lot of black folks volunteer to be white people's puppies in their social groups. Like when you go out to the mall and you go out to the supermarket and you see like 10 white and they got one black. Well, that's the puppy. That's the pet. They always keep a mascot with them to give the illusion of inclusion and make it look like they're not racist against black folks. The white folks have all kinds of strategies that they use to basically deflect accusations that they are racist. And one of the most effective strategies of white folks is to either have a black friend as a puppy, or to adopt a black child as a puppy, or to become a foster parent of a black child as a puppy. We're already separate. What we need to do is build up infrastructure in the black community. Isn't it amazing? Wherever you go in this country, there's a little Italy, there's a little China, there's a little Israel, there's a little anything. Where's the little Africa? There's not a little Africa in a single country in the United States of America. That's insane with the type of money we spend with Arabs. That's insane with the type of money we spend with Jews and East Indians. You mean to tell me they can take black money and build independent communities, but black people can't take their own black money and build independent black communities? Nowhere in America, not a single community can you show me where black people have their own hospital, their own bank, their own school, their own supermarket, their own hospital, their own bank, their own school, their own supermarket. And that is what we need. We need to build independent black infrastructure. We cannot get our food from other people because they will kill us. We cannot send our elders and our mothers to go and have babies in white people's hospitals because they will kill them. And by the way, black women have the highest fratricide rate in the United States. In fact, the black female infanticide, stillborn rate, black women have the highest in America and one of the highest in the developed world. And in fact, the infanticide rate for black women is almost as high as it is in many so-called second or third world nations in Africa. And the only reason why they refer to them as second and third world nations is because America keeps them from becoming first world nations. What they like to call them now is developing. They call them developing. How can African countries be developing when Africa was developed before Europe ever even thought about developing? So how does the greatest civilization on earth, 5,000 years ago, now here we are 5,000 years later, and now they are developing. They're not developing anything. They are being depressed and oppressed. We need to stop saying second world and third world nations. They need to stop lying and calling them developing nations. They're not developing nations. They are oppressed nations. America and Britain and France, they keep their foot on the neck of African countries, and they prevent them from developing. The same problems we suffer in America as it regards to racism is the same problems that our brothers and sisters in America suffer, that our brothers and sisters in Africa suffer as it regards to racism. We need infrastructure. Black people are too dependent on white folks for everything. We need them for schools. We need them for hospitals. We need them for food. We need them for entertainment. Where are the black movie houses? Where are the black playhouses? Why are we so comfortable being dependent on white folks? I tell you why. Because slavery set it up that way. Slavery conditioned black folks to always feel they need white folks in order to be successful. In fact, black folks are so in love with white folks that if you try to get black people to separate from white folks, they will kill you.
Okay. Do you feel that all white people are racist?
Yes, every last one. Every last one. Every Russian, every Italian, every Irishman, every Greek, every white person on earth, every Anglo-Saxon is a racist. White culture is racist. You cannot have white culture without racism, because the only way white culture became what it was is by practicing racism. The mindset of white folks is to control, patrol, dominate, subjugate, and exterminate people of color, especially black folks. They have went nowhere on this planet and have been able to treat people as equals. They are spiritually deficient, and they are not able to treat black folks as human beings. All white folks are racist. Racism has nothing to do with attitude. Racism has nothing to do with emotion. Racism has nothing to do with hatred. Racism has nothing to do with animosity. Racism is about two things that black people seem not to be able to understand. Racism is about power and privilege. Nothing more, nothing less. It is a business that does not require emotion, and it is the business of keeping white folks in control of black folks.
Okay, Amber in the chat room, she wants to know, how should a Pan-African treat his lady?
Well, all black men, whether they're Pan-Africanist or not, should treat black women with respect. They should adore black women. They should love up on black women. Our sons need to see us showing respect with black women, towards black women, whether we're in a relationship with that particular sister or not. Unfortunately, black children do not see black men showing a lot of respect and care and concern for black women. But I would also argue that the reverse is true. Black women, just as black men, have a very negativistic, nasty attitude and dismissive attitude towards black males. Because black women as a population have been allowed to receive more education and employment than black males, some sisters have come to the mindset that has been propagated by the feminist movement that they don't need men. In fact, the feminist movement is openly advocating lesbian relationships amongst black women, and we have a growing lesbianism within the black female community that is threatening traditional black homes, just as we have a growing homosexual movement amongst black men that is threatening the traditional black family. The black family is under attack, not only by white folks, not only by prison, not only by police genocide, not only by unemployment, but also the growing tide of sexual confusion in the black community.
Okay, John wanted to know if you're going to make just one school, or you plan on making numerous schools for the black community.
Ultimately, we're going to have a Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey International Pan-African School District. One school is not going to solve our problems. We need them everywhere. The goal is to start the first school. I'm hoping to have a property in hand by August the 21st of this year. And we hope to open up the school on the first day by August the 21st of 2018. If I'm blessed by God and if I'm aided by my ancestors, that's the first day of school, August the 21st of 2018. So when I go to Chicago on Thursday, I'll be looking at some schools on Friday prior to my lecture on Saturday. When I get to Indianapolis on Sunday, I'm going to try to get access to some schools there that are for sale. Everywhere I go to speak, and even places I haven't been to speak, I'm always looking at schools to see whether or not we can find something within the price can afford. We've raised about $700,000 to date, which is not a lot of money when you're talking about buying a school, but it's enough to get us a nice size little school. There's one in Chicago that has a good price on it, so I get to walk through that on Friday afternoon of this week, and we'll see what happens. So anyone listening, if you know of a school that's for sale, feel free to take a picture of the school and email it to me, or text it to me along with the contact phone number for the realtor. Sending me a school without the contact information does nothing for me. You have to send me the school, plus you have to research it and get the realtor information. I need people to help me out. Black people are very lazy and expect Dr. Umar Johnson to do everything by himself. I can't. Y'all have to help me out. Look at, which means it's in pretty good condition, hasn't been closed down long, and has a couple acres of land around it. Just take a picture of it, text it, or email it, and include the realtor information with it. And they can email that to Dr. Umar Johnson at yahoo.com, DRUMAR Johnson at yahoo.com. Or they can text it to my personal cell phone number, which is area code 215-989-9858, 215-989-9858. And before you go to your next question, if I may, I want to let your listeners know that I'll be speaking at Morgan State University, one of our historically black colleges in Baltimore. I'll be at Morgan State tomorrow, 7 o'clock program. Doors open up at 6, and it is free. The program is free and open to the African community, Morgan State University tomorrow, and I will have some unapologetically African T-shirts as well as copies of my book on hand, which will be signed after the lecture. I'm in Chicago this Saturday, February the 25th, at the new Greater Mount Moriah Baptist Church, 3101 Warren Boulevard in Chicago. That's in the East Garfield section of Chicago. Doors open up at 2, program at 4. We have some opening acts. If you'd like to be a vendor, you can get in contact with me. We have some vendor spaces, and then I'll be in Indianapolis, after Chicago on Monday, February the 27th. I will be at the Jewel Event Center, 333 Illinois Street. That's 333 Illinois Street in Indianapolis, Monday, February the 27th. Doors open up at 4 o'clock, and the program starts at 6 o'clock. And the last day of Black History Month will be Tuesday, February the 28th, and I will be in money-earning Mount Vernon, home of Heavy B, rest in peace. I will be there on Tuesday, February the 28th, for the Black History Poetry Slam, second annual Black History Poetry Slam that our young people are putting on, and I believe that event might also be open to the public as well. If anyone needs information, they can text me for the flyer to any of those events. If you need tickets for Chicago or Indianapolis, you can get them at princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com. I repeat, princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com, but you can also purchase tickets at the door.
Thank you for sharing that with us. My next question is, do you think that African Americans are lazy?
I think African Americans are very lazy when it comes to building infrastructure for ourselves. We're not lazy when it comes to hustling to take care of ourselves. We're not lazy when it comes to hustling to take care of our family. So the stereotype that white folks put out that we're lazy and shiftless is very, very untrue. We are not a lazy people. The average African American parent is working 2 jobs. The average African American parent is working 2 jobs. There's nothing lazy about us on an individualistic level. On an individualistic level, we are not lazy. On a collective group level, we are very lazy. Why do I say that? We haven't built anything for ourselves. Where are the schools for our children? Where are the hospitals? Where are the homes for our elders? Where are the homeless homes? Have you ever seen a homeless Chinese? Have you ever seen a homeless East Indian? Have you ever seen a homeless European Jew? No, you don't, because they take care of their own. We do not. Individualistically, we're not lazy. Collectively, we're the laziest people in America. We refuse to do anything collectively for our own cultural group.
Okay, well, we have Rizzo on the line, and he would like to ask the question.
How you doing, brother? Honor to talk to you, brother. I want to ask you a question. How you feel about, a lot of black people talk like a lot of black talk, so like you talk, and a white person come out and say you racist for talking when you talk. How you feel about that, sir?
Well, number one, we got to understand that the white man is king and captain of propaganda. Propaganda is nothing more than informational warfare. Propaganda is the science of changing people's minds without putting a gun to their head. It is the science of changing people's minds without putting a gun to their head. Needless to say, that black people rising is a threat to all other peoples everywhere. Every group's success is contingent on Africa and Africans being backward. Every group's success is contingent on Africa and African people being backward. So the white man cannot afford for you and me to organize. The white man cannot afford for me and you and our sisters and elders to organize, because there's corporations in this country that have made billions of dollars off of black folks being disorganized. Do you know how much money Mercedes-Benz would lose if we made our own car? Do you know how much money the prison industrial complex would use if black men had jobs and didn't have to go to them? Do you know how much money McDonald's would lose if black people created their own healthy alternative fast food restaurants? White America is parasitic of black folks. They exist to exploit us. So when I talk about self-determination and African racial independence, that is a threat to the European economic empire. That is a threat to the Chinese economic empire. That is a threat to the white Jewish economic empire. It is a threat. So in order to combat what I'm trying to do, and other Pan-Africanist leaders before me, they have to do what? Engage in a campaign of character assassination or warfare, i.e. negative propaganda. So they're always going to say that we're racist and speaking up against ourselves. And what I say, speaking up for ourselves. And what I say to that, why have we not called European Jews racist when no black people have ever been seen inside of a synagogue? Why have we not called Chinese Americans racist when they never allowed black people to operate their cash registers? Why have we not called European Americans racist for opening up all these banks? And rarely do you see black CEOs of banks. Why haven't we called the NFL and NBA racist for having very few black owners when 85 to 95% of all the players are black? So clearly every group practices racism against, practice bias, discrimination, inequity against another group. You have to be able to systematically disadvantage white. You have to be able to systematically disadvantage Chinese and able to systematically disadvantage each other. More or less be in a position to systematically disadvantage white. The question, if I'm a racist, if we are racist, what institution do black people control through which we can systematically disadvantage whites? What institution do we control through which we can systematically disadvantage Mexicans? None at all. None at all. And guess what? Because Chinese supremacy, because Chinese are buying up so much of Africa and the Caribbean that we're about to evolve from dealing with or being victimized by white supremacy. And in the next 25 to 50 years, now we're going to be dealing with Chinese supremacy.
Doctor, I got another question for you. Friend named Danny, she got a question for you about the doctor named Marvin Hammer. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name well. The doctor that came with a cure with AIDS and cancer.
The doctor, what was the doctor's name?
Marvin Hammer. I think I'm saying it.
I'm not familiar with him.
Okay. Next question I got for you, sir, is do black folks own any banks in the United States? And if they do, what's the name of the bank?
Yes, black people don't own a lot, but we do own several banks. If they Google black banks, they could get them off the internet. I don't know the names of all of them. Chicago has one or two. Detroit has one or two. Philadelphia has United Bank. We do have a couple around the country. Some of them have been shut down. One of our oldest banks, I believe it was in Detroit or Chicago, was just shut down by the FDIC a couple of weeks ago. They don't want black banks. And then I also have a little bit of a gripe with black banks because I don't see black banks investing in the black community the way in which they should. It seems like that a lot of black banks are only investing in black elites, black bourgeoisies. It's almost as if they only exist to look out for the financial interests of the bourgeois. I don't see them really working on a grassroots level to empower single black mothers to go into business. I don't see them working to empower black male ex-offenders to go into business. I don't see them working to empower black students to go into business. So our black banks, from what I see, and I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule, but the great majority of them seem to be practicing black bourgeoisie economics, and I don't support bourgeoisie economics.
Hey, brother, next thing I got for you question is, I see a lot of Malcolm X in you, right? And I want to know, do you get any phone calls or threats of your life because of the stuff you're preaching? Because you're preaching real deep stuff, brother.
I've got a couple of death threats. Most of them have come from black people, not white people.
That's so sad. That's so sad.
A question that was in the chat room by Ashley. She wants to know, so that means you don't like white people?
I don't have anything against white people. I have good conversations with white people every day. I work with white folks to some extent in my work as a psychologist. I've been interviewed by white folks. I don't have anything personally against white folks, but I understand them and I understand their culture. And I understand that in order for their culture to thrive, mine cannot survive. White people are natural political and economic adversaries to black folks. If you study the entire history of the development of Europe, Europe has only been able to become king of the world because they have been able to suffocate and dominate black Africa. When you understand the behavior of nations, when you understand the historic relationship between Africa and Europe, you will understand clearly with pristine crystal clarity that white folk must dominate black folks in order to stay where they are. We need to understand something. The greatest hatred that white folk have towards blacks as a population is that we have genetic predominance over all groups on the planet. When God created humans, he created us first, or she created us first, but God made us predominant. That means that no matter if I lay with a Chinese woman, if I lay with a white woman, if I lay with a Jew, if I lay with an Arab, East Indian, Mexican, Native American, I reproduce myself. The black man is the only man who can reproduce himself in the woman of any race. No other man can say, I can reproduce myself in any other woman. No man. No other woman can say that I reproduce myself no matter what seed is planted in me. The black woman reproduces herself. She is a baby-making machine, and white folks hate that because it's hard to control and exterminate black folks when black women are more fertile by nature. Black women are more fertile by nature. Black men are more fertile by nature than anyone else. That's why you constantly hear these complaints about population control. The world is being overpopulated. The world is not being overpopulated. That's one of the biggest lies ever told. What they mean to say is that the world is being populated too much by black folks, and we have to keep it under control. See, what we need to understand is that all white folks are racist. See, but the reason why black people have trouble understanding that is because our personal relationships with white folks cloud us to the larger agenda of white people. Let me say that again. Our personal, individual relationships with white people often cloud and brainwash us to the greater agenda of white folks. There's not a white person on earth, not your boyfriend, not your girlfriend, not your coworker, who has ever or will ever work to eliminate the white privilege that they enjoy vis-a-vis black oppression. Show a white person who has ever worked to eliminate white privilege. Better yet, ask your white friends and your white boyfriends and your white girlfriends, are they interested in helping you embark on a campaign to eliminate white privilege in America? We want white people to be treated the same as black people. Will you help me fight that? They will never help you fight that. White people enjoy privilege. They know that they enjoy that privilege at the expense of black folk. And they have never done anything to change it, and they never will. The problem with black people is we are so multicultural that we can't understand white folks. We're so in love with them that we can't even understand what they're doing to us. All white people practice racism, and no white person is ever, ever, ever going to do anything to eliminate the privilege that they enjoy vis-a-vis black oppression. If you know of one, please give me their name, because I would like to meet them.
All right, brother. I got another question for you, brother. I like what you just said. I'm going to take you back 100 years, a couple hundred years. Back in slavery, a lot of black folks trying to run away, and tell me your take about the Native Americans helping us out.
Well, first of all, the 5 major Native American tribes fought on the side of the Confederacy against the Union. The 5 major Native American tribes fought with the Confederacy against the Union. They fought to maintain the slavery. It's true that there were tribes or nations of Native Americans that we interbred with, we intermixed with, so forth, so on. Okay, a lot of us have Native American blood. I have it in my family. My grandmother's grandmother, I believe, was a full-blooded Cherokee Indian. So what? African DNA is predominant, and that makes me African, period. I don't run around bragging about Native American blood. I don't run around bragging about the slave blood that is in my veins. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. No race will ever come to the aid of black folks. No race has, no race will. In fact, speaking of the Native Americans, once they were able to solidify their agreement with the United States government to build these casinos on the different Native American reserves that they have around America, one of the first things that they did, and y'all can do your research, one of the first things that all of the major Native American tribes did was they passed resolutions that said no African American could ever claim to be part of their nation. I repeat, no African American can ever claim to be part of their nation, no matter how much Native American blood that you have in you. They do not identify with you. They will not allow you to participate. But every day you wake up, you got 5, 10, 15, 20 black folks running around talking about, I got Indian in my family. Who the hell cares? Because the Indians certainly don't care.
That's so true. Do you feel that a Lumbee Indian is considered as black? Because, I hear that all the time.
Well, here's the thing, and we need to understand this. There has been a great conspiracy in history where a lot of populations of African people from Africa have come to America, have settled it. They lived in the Caribbean, they lived in Central and South America, and no, they didn't all call themselves Moors either. And there were African nations in America that settled and who lived here. And it is very true that when the white man got here, and you can read this in the diary of Christopher Columbus, we were already here. You can read it in Ivan Van Sertima's work. They came before Columbus. We were already here. The reason why the white man is constantly trying to claim that everyone who was here before slavery was a Native American is because he does not want to have to settle with Africans in America and basically give you the same thing that he had to give the Native Americans, and that is your own land and your own right to use that land in any way in which you choose. So I do agree with our Moorish brothers to some extent that America does owe black folks land without question. We were here before them. We were here before the Native Americans, and many of the Native American tribes were not even tribes. They were groups of Africans. For example, the word Seminole means runaway. A Seminole is a runaway slave. That's what a Seminole is. That was not a Native American tribe. That was a community of escaping blacks. So without question, we were already here. We were all throughout the Caribbean, that they want us to believe that the Indians were here. That the Indians were here, not black folk, because they don't want to have to admit that this is our land as much Africa is. But where I would disagree with Moorish brothers is I am not interested in claiming America before I claim Africa. No matter where we are, we got here from being an African, and you do not ignore or deny your mother just because you don't want to be associated with her. We are an African people living in America. We are an African people that came and settled America, Central South America, and the Caribbean, and so we don't have to disidentify from our continent of origin to claim that this is our land as well. But I definitely agree with them on the premise that, yes, we were here first. We were everywhere first. We were everywhere first. So the question becomes, if we were everywhere first, where should we seek to plant our flag first? And in my opinion, from a geopolitical strategic perspective, Africa is where we plant our flag first. Not only is it the first land, not only is it the motherland, it is the richest land. The wealth of American soil doesn't even begin to compare with Africa. So why do I want to claim America before I claim Africa? It's because I don't want to be black. And that's what's wrong with a lot of us. We don't want to be black, and we will identify with anything and push any agenda that allows us to no longer be black folks.
Okay, brother. Another question. Can you tell me about this brother that from South Carolina that had a slavery boat, had 9,000 slaves and ready to put in work, but had stopped it? His name Demar Jeezy.
I need you to repeat that and slow down so I can understand what you're saying.
I'm sorry, brother. Can you tell me about the slavery boat that happened in South Carolina about to happen? That had killed that brother before he started.
Well, you're talking about Denmark Vesey.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
In 1822, a free black man by the name of Denmark Vesey began to organize free blacks and enslaved blacks to revolt against the city of Charleston. They were going to rise up, and they were going to conquer Charleston, and they was going to move and spread out and conquer the entire South Carolina. And they were ultimately going to link up with Haiti, the island of Haiti, and they were going to link up with them. In fact, he was inspired by the Haitian Revolution to do that. In fact, he was brought to America from the islands, and I think he may have even come from Haiti or Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo, what have you. I think he may have even come from that land. And so he purchased his own freedom, free black man, and he started organizing. And what happened was, I believe, that the night that they were going to revolt, one of the house Negro slaves went to his master and ratted out Denmark Vesey. And Denmark Vesey and all the others was rounded up, and it was a great mass hanging, and they were all killed. So it was a black house Negro that ratted out Denmark Vesey. Now, the interesting thing about Denmark Vesey, when he began organizing the slave revolt, if memory serves me correctly, he did not include house Negroes at first. If you worked in a house, I don't think he included you. It was either house Negroes or biracial Africans. It was one or the other. He didn't trust either the house Negroes or the biracial Africans, but I think it was the house Negroes. But ultimately, he decided to let them in, and unfortunately, not listening to his own wisdom, it was the house Negro that ultimately betrayed him. Same thing happened with Gabriel Prosser in 1800. Gabriel Prosser in Virginia, Richmond, 1800. He did the same thing. He began organizing, and what happened, a big storm came, and so they had to delay the slave revolt, and another house Negro ran and told his slave master on Gabriel Prosser, and that's how that got snitched out. And that slave that exposed Gabriel Prosser went on record to say that the reason he told on the slave revolt is because he didn't want to see his master hurt. He didn't want to see his master hurt. And so we have to understand something. We have black folks who are absolutely committed to the maintenance and perpetuation of white supremacy. We have black people who are absolutely committed to the maintenance and perpetuation of white supremacy. So when we move amongst our people, we got to be very, very discerning. We have to be very, very clever. We have to be very, very Machiavellian even in what we do, because everywhere I speak, I know that there are agents there who have been sent to kill my work. I never assume that everybody at a Dr. Umar Johnson lecture is there because they want to learn, or they're there because they want to support. There's always people who are there to destroy me. Some of them are being sent in to gather my plans from the white man, which is why I don't put everything out anymore. And then some of them are what I call, rogue agents, and these are Negroes who do not have an official capacity with the FBI or the CIA, but who are simply there out of jealousy, animosity, and hatred to destroy me. So there's two groups that I got to look out for. I have to look out for the official agents that are being sent by the government, and then I have to look out for the rogue agents who are self-hating black folks who just want to see another black man fail. So we have to be very careful, because every one of our skin folk is not necessarily of our kinfolk.
Okay, what other leaders other than yourself do you think that we should support and pay close attention to?
I would say that there's a lot of people in the grassroots level, that people who don't even know, who are doing a lot of good stuff in the black community, who are often unsung heroes and don't get enough attention. On the national level, I would say that Dr. Claude Anderson, a good friend of mine, an economist, I would say that he's one of the most critical scholars, because he's dealing with economics on a Marcus Garvey race-based level. So his message and my message are 100% congruent. Another scholar would be Attorney Alton Maddox. Attorney Alton Maddox out of New York City. He's another scholar who is approaching law from the Marcus Garvey graduate's perspective. So those two in particular, I would definitely recommend that people watch them, people study them, read Dr. Claude Anderson's books, go to YouTube, watch Dr. Claude Anderson's lectures, go to YouTube, watch Attorney Alton Maddox's lectures. Those would be my favorite two living, and not the only ones, but both of them are good friends of mine, good elders, and what they teach and what they're trying to do. And what I like about them so much is they're not just teaching. Most people in the conscious community, all they do is disseminate information. Dr. Claude Anderson and Attorney Alton Maddox have a history of doing what I'm doing, and that is not only teaching, but also organizing.
Okay, brother, I got one more question for you, brother. This pertaining to me. I got two little boys, they 10 and 8. Is they too young to learn about how racist white folks is? Or I didn't let them get a little older?
No, there was a research study that was done by white folks that had basically revealed that children are aware of racial differences as early as 4, and that they may also be aware of the level of respect or status that their race is accorded by other groups. So your sons, by this time, are definitely aware that they're black people, that they're white people, that there's different groups. But on top of that, they may also be aware that the group to which they belong is one of the most disrespected and marginalized groups. So yes, it is time for you to start reinforcing their knowledge of self, black history, black culture. Take them to the museums, take them to the lectures. Make it fun. Make it fun to learn about culture. Don't just put a book in front of them. Make it fun to learn about culture. Put on the DVDs, watch it with them, talk about it with them, go on to different trips and events. Of course, this summer I'll be hosting my 2nd annual Black College and Consciousness Tour. We'll be going out of Atlanta this year. Last year we went out of Newark, New Jersey. We did Pennsylvania last year, New York last year, Maryland last year, Delaware, and Virginia last year. This year out of Atlanta, June 28th to July the 12th, 14 days and 14 nights. We'll be doing Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama, and probably North Carolina. So your 11-year-old or your 10-year-old, if he'll be 11 by that time, he could join us for the Black College and Consciousness Tour. That tour is $3,500, but Dr. Umar Johnson pays $1,500 of the tour, and the parents pay $2,000. And I should have registration for that by the middle of March 14th. People can check in with me on the website. They can also check in on my social network pages. They can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Umar Johnson, on Twitter at Dr. Umar Johnson, the website, drumarjohnson.com, the email, drumarjohnson@yahoo.com. On Facebook, I use my African last name. So on Facebook, you want to connect with me at Dr. Umar Ifatunde. Ifatunde is spelled I as in independence, F as in firmness, A as in Africa, T as in together, U as in unity, N as in nationalism, D as in dedication, E as in eternity. Dr. Umar Ifatunde is the Facebook page. You'll know it when you see it because the profile picture is myself and Brother Charlemagne from my Breakfast Club interview.
Okay, Dr. Umar Johnson, I want to say thank you for stopping by 99B. It's a pleasure that you came for this interview tonight. Is there anything else you want to say to the people?
Yes, I want to encourage everyone to support the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy fundraiser. Please go to GoFundMe.com/Dr. Umar. GoFundMe.com/Dr. Umar. Make a donation or you can mail it in. Payable to FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 687, Philadelphia, PA 19132. Check or money order. Please include your name, your phone number, your email address, because when we open up the school, we will be making sure we honor everyone who donated to the school. Also, I'm going to begin filming for my documentary, which will be called The Shockumentary, The Psychoacademic War Against Black Boys. If any parent or anyone from the community, you don't have to be a parent, who has a testimonial and they feel that is worthy of being interviewed. Something that you went through as a black man when you was a boy. If you're a mother or father, something that you went through trying to protect your son. It could be related to special education. It could be related to medication. It could be related to ADHD. It could be related to suspension, expulsion, misdiagnosis, police brutality, incarceration. This is a war against black boys. And anyone who has a story, teacher, social worker, nurse, counselor, community activist, even if you are a grown black man, or even if you are a mother and your son is no longer a child, he's a grown man. But if that testimony of what he went through 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago is worthy of being included in my documentary, feel free to text my cell phone at 215-989-9858. And what I need you to text is your first name, your last name, your city, your state, in the word documentary. That's all I need is those 5 things. Please don't include anything else. Your first name, your last name, your city where you live, your state where you live, and the word documentary, and I will be in contact with you to schedule the interview. We're starting to work on that. And the last thing, anyone who wants to be part of the National Independent Black Parent Association, the National Independent Black Parent Association, which is a movement we started a year ago to organize black parents to fight against racism. We will be holding our next training conference in the Midwest in May. I should have that information in the next week or two. But you don't have to wait until then. You can contact me by text message or email, and I will put you in contact with brothers and sisters in your city who are already part of a chapter. If you have a chapter, then I would also ask you to start a study group for the Parent Association. You can start a study group until such time that you're able to come to a conference. We need to start helping black parents now. We need to start organizing black parents now. And if anyone desires to be part of something that's serious, that's going to make a difference, please consider starting a chapter of the National Independent Black Parent Association. We educate, we investigate, we advocate. Phone number 215-989-9858. 215-989-9858. That is a text message number only. You only use that number if you need to text me. If you need to fly for Chicago, you need to fly for Indianapolis, you need to fly for the Parent Association, you need to fly for the Tuesday morning Black Parent Teleconference. I host a call every Tuesday morning. We did it this morning from 6 a.m. until 8 a.m. So black parents can call in and ask me any question related to child education or mental health. And the number to that call is 857-232-0158, 857-232-0158. And the access code is 870-864-POUND, 870-864-POUND. Join the Black Parent Movement.
Well, thank you again for coming to 99 The Beat. It was a pleasure on having you today. If you don't mind, can you please stay on hold?
Yes.